It is essential to develop a complete sense of detachment, even regarding the various practices of sadhana, and to constantly maintain the sense of identity between the Jiva and Brahman, which lies deep beneath these spiritual practices. The Upanishads declare, Tyage naike amritatva manashuhu. By detachment alone, immortality is gained. The topics involved in the proper spiritual practice, that is Sadachara, are Prata Smaranam Shaucham Cha Snanam Chaghamarsanam Sandhya Japastarpanam Cha Agni Hotram Tadharchanam Maunam Dhyanam Bhojanam Cha Sadachara Prakirtitaha Mumukshunam Tu Kartavyaha Swasmin Arthe Tu Jnaninam. So now these 12 topics begin, and we'll look at them next week. We can outline them, and we'll see that then from the third verse onwards, each of those 12 conducts is taken and explained. So what are the first one? Pratasmaranam. Pratasmaranam means when you get up in the morning, remembering the Lord. Then Shaucham. Shaucham means cleansing, hygiene. It's purification of the body and mind. This Australian style of taking bath in the night and getting up in the morning and living, going to work or going to school, very unhygienic. You must take bath in the morning. I'm talking about from common man's point of view. The seeker's point of view will say, see another thing afterwards. Must take bath in the morning, because when you sleep at night, in that silence, in that proximity to the self, even though under the veil of ignorance, you are closest to the self, at that time all the toxins are coming out of your body. They must be washed away in the morning. Third, snanam, bathing the body. Fourth, Agamarshanam, expiatory practices to remove or destroy sins, usually applied to a prayer accompanied by a repetition of Agamarshana Sukta of the Rig Veda. Sandhya, this is like Agamarshanam, you know what? It is like a positive talk to yourself. Yes, I can, I'm good, I'm not going to get angry, and whatever you want to, you discover what you need to work on that day, and then you become, what do you call those words? Positive, what is that? Affirmation. It's like you say an affirmation to yourself. Sandhya, prayers to be done when at the junctions of the day, when the morning becomes afternoon, night becomes morning, the morning becomes afternoon, afternoon becomes evening, and evening becomes night. So these 4 sandhya periods are there. And people don't follow 4, at least 3: morning, afternoon, and evening. Then japa, every day we must spend some time doing the japa of the mantra, whatever your mantra is. If nothing, chant Om. And when you should do it, try to keep chanting the name throughout the day, but especially during the Sandhya period. When is the Sandhya period? It is half an hour, 40 minutes before sunrise and half an hour, 40 minutes after sunset. That is the potent period where you should, the mind is very readily available for this sadhana that time. That is why it is done that time. Then Tarpanam. Tarpanam is offering oblations of water to the mains or deceased ancestors. That you must have seen. I don't get involved in that ritualistic act, but every now and then you will remember, involuntarily it comes. I mention about my grandfather or my father, isn't it? Involuntarily. Usually I take it as an example. That's the impact that they have made. That's the lineage I belong to. At a relative level, I'm saying. At an absolute level, I am that. But at a relative level. So offering that, so we remember the great ancestry that we belong to, the great people that our forefathers were, when they were so great, I have to live up to keep that name. That's how it used to be in the olden times. Nowadays nobody cares. Then next is Agnihotram, offering an oblation to the fire or maintenance of the sacred fire and offering oblations to it. This is done. It's just a 10-minute ritual. In lot of homes in India, they will light the fire, chant some mantras, do the japa, and then close it off. But we'll see what is the meaning of this oblation, Agnihotram. Not just the external, what is the internal? There is the internal fire which is continuously burning. Udanavayu. That fire has to reach its destination. How can we keep feeding that fire? How can we keep feeding this fire that I want to know myself, I want to liberate? That is a fire. So we'll look at that. Then Archanam, worship of the Lord. Worship of the Lord, one is outside, one is worship of the self. What is the worship of the self? Continuous remembrance, isn't it? When you want to worship the Lord, you have to remember, you have to prepare, you have to be clean, then you enter the temple or the church, and then there you do whatever you have to do, listen to the sermon, listen to your attention, the priest may be speaking, whatever he is speaking, but you are in communion with the altar there. So you be in communion with yourself, that is your altar. Maunam, silence. When we go into a temple, we don't go there to chat. You go to a church, Indian temples are different. But you go to churches, there is silence, isn't it? Maunam. But one is external silence, one is internal silence also. That will be looked into. Then third is Dhyanam. When there is silence, in that silence, it becomes very easily, the mind is available to meditate at that time. That is why people get attracted to the various holy places. Why? Those are vibrationally, they are very high. Then Bhojanam. After that, eating food. Eating food means satisfying yourself, isn't it? So what is internal satisfaction? That you are eating Brahman, Brahma Arpanam Brahmavi, Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhina. This is the internal understanding. So this will be looked into. And thus the practices remaining the same, they can be viewed from three different standpoints. I just told you two. One is from that of a man of ignorance who is engaged in the worldly activities, karma kanda. Second, that of a seeker of truth who is engaged in the self-enquiry. And three, the angle of vision of a man of wisdom whose nature is to abide in the self. So how a man abiding in the self looks at these 12 conducts, how a seeker looks at these 12 conducts, and how a person living a normal life, not seeking the truth, takes these 12 conducts and calls them as superstition and gives up. There's meaning behind all this. And in this way, the first path, the man of ignorance,